In the vibrant halls of the University of Lagos, where the energy of youth danced through the air, a quiet love story unfolded. It was not the kind of love you read about in fairy tales, no dramatic confessions, no candlelit dinners, just two young Nigerians, caught between their dreams and reality. Her name was Chioma, beautiful, brilliant, and full of ambition. She came from a middle-class home in Enugu, raised to chase success and never settle for less. His name was Emeka, a humble boy from a small village in Anambra State. He was quiet, respectful, and always the first to help a classmate without asking for anything in return. He was from a poor background but carried himself with a quiet dignity. Chioma and Emeka were two students who seemed worlds apart. Chioma was a sharp, ambitious girl from Enugu, a city girl with her eyes on skyscrapers and salary jobs. Emeka, soft-spoken, honest, and poor, but rich in kindness. They met in their second year. He helped her fix her laptop. She helped him with his thesis. From long nights reading under a tree to walking hand in hand to Yoba Market, their bond grew. Love bloomed, quietly, purely. Chioma and Emeka first met during their second year in university. They were both studying mass communication. Emeka was the type who would sit quietly at the back of the class, while Chioma was always in front, answering questions with confidence. Their paths crossed when Emeka helped her fix her laptop in the school library. From there, conversations flowed naturally. He made her laugh. She made him dream. Their friendship turned into a relationship, and soon they were inseparable. When they graduated, Emeka proposed. Chioma hesitated. She had dreams of moving to Lagos, working in a bank, living in a koi. But love made her say yes. They married simply, no flashy clothes, no big party. Just love, and promises whispered under the stars. After marriage, they moved to Emeka's village in Anambra. Life in Emeka's village was far from what Chioma had imagined. The roads were dusty, electricity was inconsistent, and their small home had no running water. Emeka worked as a local teacher in the village secondary school. His monthly salary. Just enough for Gary, yam, and baby diapers. Chioma grew restless. She missed the sound of cars, the sight of buildings touching the sky, and the taste of spicy shawarma at city joints. Life was hard. No electricity most days. Cooking with firewood. Fetching water from a well. Emeka found work as a school teacher, earning just enough to buy food. Chioma grew tired. The city was calling, and she hated village life. Then came the news, she was pregnant, with twins. Emeka was overjoyed. He danced with neighbors. But Chioma cried quietly at night. She didn't want to be a mother, not now, not here. The twins, a boy and a girl, were born strong and healthy. Emeka named them Chidera and Chisom, what God has written, and God is with me. But Chioma. She had already checked out. 3 months later, Emeka returned from the farm to find an empty bed, the babies crying, and Chioma gone. She had left in the night. No note. No goodbye. She had taken the last money in their savings box and boarded a night bus to Lagos. She wanted freedom, success, and a new life without crying babies tying her down. Emeka collapsed on the floor that night. But by morning, he stood again. He strapped one baby to his back, carried the other in front, and walked to the local clinic to ask for baby formula. He washed clothes for neighbors. He cut firewood. He taught at school during the day and sang lullabies at night. He faced a mountain of challenges. He sold his old bicycle to buy baby formula. He took night shifts, leaving the babies in the care of a kind elderly neighbor. He went days without food to make sure his children never went hungry. He became both father and mother. The village was filled with whispers. "No she dey rush go city no. She no fit stay raise children." Some blamed Chioma. Others pitied Emeka. But the young father remained silent. He learned how to feed 2 crying babies at once. He sold his only goat to buy baby formula. At night, he sang lullabies in Igbo while warming water over a fire. He walked to school with one baby on his back and the other in his arms. He was mocked. He was admired. But he never gave up. 12 years passed. Chidera and Chisom grew into intelligent, well-mannered children. Emeka raised them with discipline and love. He never spoke ill of their mother, but he also never lied. She left. But we stayed. That's all that matters. Then, one dusty afternoon, a black SUV arrived in the village. The car door opened, and a woman stepped out. Chioma. She wore heels that sank into the village mud, carried designer bags, and wore a gold wristwatch. She was successful, working in a top firm in Victoria Island. But success could not erase guilt. She walked up to Emeka's compound and saw the twins playing ill under a mango tree. She smiled nervously. "My children," she said, "I am your mother." Chidera stood up. Chisom followed. They looked at her with cold eyes. "You're not our mother," Chisom said. "Our mother would never leave us crying in a cradle." Chioma tried to kneel, to hug them. But Chidera stepped back. "Don't touch us," he said. "You lost that right 12 years ago." Chioma turned to Emeka, pleading with her eyes. He sighed, shook his head slowly, and said, "You didn't just leave me. You left them. They are old enough now to choose." With shame burning on her face, Chioma climbed back into her car and drove away, tears falling silently. 2 months later, Emeka made a bold decision. He left the village and traveled to Lagos with Chidera and Chisom. They slept in a church compound for 2 nights before Emeka got a job as a store supervisor at a building materials company. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He worked tirelessly, saved every naira, and put the twins in public school. They studied hard. Emeka used his salary to buy books instead of clothes. He told them, "Education is the only inheritance I can give you." Years passed. Chidera became a medical doctor, graduating from the University of Ibadan with top honors. Chisom became a civil engineer, earning a scholarship to study in the UK before returning to start her own construction company in Abuja. They never lacked again. And they never forgot their father's sacrifices. At Chidera's wedding, she married the son of a commissioner, a wealthy, influential family. Chisom followed months later, marrying an oil company executive. Guests wore lace and gele. The hall sparkled with joy. Chioma was there, invited, but seated far at the back. She watched as the twins danced with Emeka, laughing, crying, calling him Papa, our hero. Not once did they look her way. Not out of hate, but because they had already moved on. This is not just a story of heartbreak. It's the story of a father who became everything. Of children who chose love over bitterness. And of a woman who realized too late that some absences can never be forgiven. Years after a mother walked away from her crying children, fate brings her back, too late for apologies, too early for peace. But time has a way of spinning stories we never expect. This is the story of a father's blessing, a mother's regret, and the destiny of 2 children raised in pain, but built for greatness. Chidera was now a celebrated doctor in Lagos. She owned a private clinic and often ran medical outreaches in rural communities. Chisom, her twin sister, was a respected civil engineer, supervising major government projects across Abuja and the East. Their father, Emeka, now lived in a small but beautiful bungalow in Surulere, Lagos. His children had built it for him. He no longer worked, he rested. He spent his days reading newspapers and watching old Nollywood films. They never lacked. But one thing still lingered, the shadow of their mother. Chioma had tried, years ago, to reconnect. But her children had closed the door and kept it closed. Chioma's success began to fade. After years at the top of her career, her company was rocked by a major scandal. She lost her job, her house in Lekki was repossessed, and many of her friends stopped picking her calls. She moved into a small flat in Ajij, living quietly and alone. One rainy evening, Chioma sat staring at old photos, baby pictures she had secretly taken from Emeka's Facebook page. She wept. "I abandoned my blessing," she whispered. "Now I sit with nothing." She heard from a neighbor that Chidera was hosting a medical outreach in Ajij Primary School. Something inside her told her to go. Chioma walked into the outreach tent, wearing simple ankara and holding her purse tightly. She saw Chidera in a white coat, directing nurses, examining patients. Her daughter looked like a queen. Chioma stepped forward and called her name softly, Chidera. Chidera turned, her eyes meeting the woman who gave her life, but not love. For a moment, time froze. "Mommy," one of the nurses said in surprise. But Chidera shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "That woman is not my mother." Chioma's face dropped. "I'm sorry," Chidera continued. "I can treat you if you're sick. But that's all I can offer." Chioma trembled. "I have no one. No home. No family," she said. Chidera looked at her, then calmly said, "That's what you gave us when you left." Chioma left the outreach in silence, her eyes wet with tears. Back home, Emeka sat on his veranda, sipping palm wine. Chisom came to visit and told him what had happened. Emeka said nothing for a while, then nodded. "It's not easy to forgive someone who left you bleeding," he said. "But one day, you'll see, forgiveness isn't for her. It's for your own peace." That night, he wrote a letter, his will. He left his house to the twins, but in the final paragraph, he added one line. "If ever you feel ready, give her a room. Not because she deserves it, but because mercy is stronger than memory." 5 years later, Emeka passed away peacefully in his sleep. The funeral was grand, traditional Igbo music, dignitaries, friends, and villagers from Anambra who came to honor the teacher who raised two legends. Chioma stood at the back, dressed in a simple wrapper and black blouse. She cried, not for herself, but for the man she once ignored, who had done what she could not. After the burial, Chidera and Chisom opened his will. They read his final line, and went silent. A month later, Chioma was invited to visit. Chidera welcomed her at the door. Not with a hug, but with a chair, a plate of food, and clean clothes. "This is not a family reunion," she said. "It's an act of grace." Chioma knelt. "I will sweep your floor if that's all I'm allowed," she whispered. And that's how she began. As a housemaid in her daughter's home. Cleaning, cooking, and watching quietly from the corners. It took 3 years, but eventually, the twins invited her to dinner, not as a stranger, but as the woman who was once their mother, and was learning, at last, how to become one again. Some scars never heal. But some do. Slowly. With time, with effort, and with humility. This is not a perfect ending. But it is a human one. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it makes room for a future. Like, share, and subscribe if this story touched your heart. Would you have forgiven Chioma? Let us know in the comments below.